Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's class. I'll be presenting my presentation on policy analysis of Senate Bill 67, which talks about secured school safety grants. And by the way, my name is William George, and I will talk about the bill I chose. So, by looking at the overview, like I said, the bill is Senate Bill 67. It's still under review in the Education Committee of Indiana State Senate. And it was introduced by Senator Lakeisha Jackson, who is a Democrat. Um, the overview on the bill is that it focuses on youth violence prevention and mental health support in schools. Key points about the bill: it's to provide funding for school safety grants, also focus on the early intervention and mental health services, and also staff training. Um, Key components are grant for, like I said, grants for school staff training, um, and it's focused on youth violence prevention and supports early intervention rather than punitive measures like suspension or arrest, because nowadays, or growing up, usually in schools, when you do something, you get some warning, then you get detention or suspension, or if you do something very extreme, you are arrested for the um, thing you did. And also to promote safe and inclusive school environments for students. So why I selected this bill? Um, I'm originally from India, from the southern part of India, and I went to public and private school. I ended up in a residential private school towards from sixth grade to senior year. Um, but it's very different system in India versus the US. Um, and also in India, in our school violence is not a very popular topic as it is in the US. So personal connection as an international student, very shocking for me to hear about school violence, especially like shooting, and in school settings, because first of all, in India, you're not able to carry a gun. You can't even buy a gun only on special circumstance. You're able to have a gun in your like within the family or in your family. It's very different than out the US as the rules for it, and especially the state of Indiana too. So, like I said, it's very alarming, and the topic on school violence is very interesting to like. It was very interesting for me. That's why I chose this bill and see how we can help help the staff who work at schools as well as the students by early intervention, which um, will stop the violence in schools and also build a safe environment for everyone also. Um, so why it's important in social work, it promotes proactive preventive strategies like mental health support, early intervention, which aligns with social work of values of advocacy and empowerment and prevention. And mental health focuses on, excuse me, social workers play a key role in supporting students who face emotional and behavioral challenge. And this bill empowers social workers to intervene early and more effectively. I would say, this is just not a social workers only approach. It's beneficial for every staff in the school to be trained when through the grant, so everyone can take a step towards um, towards the issue by early intervention, and impacts on clients, let's say by focusing on support and not punishment, which creates more inclusive and supportive education environment and ultimately benefiting the vulnerable youth. Then we're looking at the Kruger Strauss policy analysis model. historic background, school violence has been a recurring issue in the US. I mean, it's the very big famous case is the Colombian shooting, which was happened in 1999, and the more recently one was the Uvalde, Texas one. So historically, response have been reactive and focusing on increasing security measures, example like pause officers or zero tolerance policy. Even though all these measures I've taken, it's still happening. So I think it's time for that we come up with different ways where we can stop it than trying to find other ways to punish or or proactively encourage, I would say. I think that's the right word to say. So, like I said, the Senate Bill 67 emerges as a proactive approach, focusing on prevention through education and training. And well, the problems addressed in the Senate bill is that school violence, from a bullying to extreme cases like school shootings, school violence takes in many forms. Um, Through research, which I did for my paper, I was able to find that there was a lack of early intervention, which often escalates the situation before staff can act on it, and and also students suffer from the impact it does impact students, even though they were not around the area, but when they hear about it, and if it was someone who was very close to them, it does make, I mean, it does affect them, and leaves a big trauma and mental health issues or aggression often go un or aggression which often go unnoticed until a crisis occurs. So that's why there's a need for action, because by looking at the National Center of Education statistics in 2024 shows that 90% of students report being bullied, which can be early indicator of more severe problems. Goals and achievements of the Senate Bill 67 um, is to reduce school violence by funding grants for training staff to recognize and respond to early signs of violence and trauma or mental health issues. I would say mental health issues too, not just or. And um, so the expected outcome is by intervening early, the Senate Bill 61 aims to prevent crisis, leading to safer school and better mental health support for students. Connection, like I said, the connection to the social work values, emphasize on prevention, early intervention, and client empowerment. Then focus aligns with the value by addressing the root cause of the youth violence and supporting mental. I feel, I mean, uh, through this full semester and previous semester, what I've been learning in social work is that we walk with the client alongside them, not us just telling them what to do. So I feel like that's very important in this kind of situation, that we're looking at the root cause of the problem and trying to talk to them and trying to make them feel seen and let them know that there is support that they can rely on, then make rely so they have support so they can rely on, so they don't feel like they're not unseen in the school environment or any environment where they're interacting with other social workers or staff in general. The systematic change of Senate 67 advocates for the holistic approach to safety, moving away from punishment towards like a system of support. Um, I mean, like I said, punishment in terms of like detention is not bad, but then there are sometimes it's looked at different, and it can go very differently on basis on like each individual, and no suspension, which makes them to stay away from school and they're not learning anything, and it just leaves a bad, um, I guess, impression for them that in the long term, because whenever they do, they'll know that they'll get suspended, and that's it. So I think it's better to let the youth and the students or people we work with know that they have a support system which they can rely on. Um, so then there's more opportunities for them to change themselves as well as around around their as well as their surroundings. So evaluating of the policy, it did look at the evidence-based practice, which emphasized on the early intervention as the most effective strategy for preventing violence and supporting youth. There could be some potential challenges, which can be the matching grant requirement, which could pose a barrier for under-resourced schools, and quality of training, which must be ongoing or continues to be effective. Like, for example, I know someone who works at Decatur Township, like a school township, and in the Decatur Township, they have so many school which comes under, and this person works at just an elementary school. Um, and they are not they're very different than a normal school, like for example, like at Carmel High School versus school which is in the Decatur, like in the township area, or Park Tudor also, because the funding is different and they have different donor bases. So, and usually people will go to like Decatur Township or Washington Township. For sure, I know in Decatur Township, it's more families who are not super rich, but their daily income looks different to people who live in Carmel or families who send their kids to Park Tudor, I would assume. Um, well, one thing was anyone could apply for this. If the bill passes through, anyone could apply for this grant, it, as long as they are able to match the grant, like no requirement. The coalition partners, which I thought would benefit this bill to be pushed through in the committee, would be in Indiana School Social Work Association because their expertise in social work and experience with students' mental needs make them the ideal partner for advocating and implementing the Senate Bill 67. The Indiana Youth Institute, because they research on youth and mental health in Indiana, especially in the underserved areas, which can help provide data-driven support for the bill's objective. And I feel like it's very important to look at data so then we're not missing out any areas. And, and it also will give us a third eye in terms of to looking at the root cause and what's driving this incident in this area or what goes on the mind of the student. And the other one is the Mental Health America of Indiana, which focuses on mental health wellness, which endorse strength, which will provide the endorsement strengths to the bill's emphasis on mental health support. The other one would be the Children's Policy and the Law Initiative, which focus on the Juvenile Justice Reform Alliance, with this bill's goal of shifting away from punitive measure. So the gimmick which I came up with, or which would benefit here to leave a small, like a quick memory, I would say is the backpack of hope. What it is just simply a symbolic backpack filled with items representing students' need, like a mirror, which can be self-reflection, mental health, first aid, emergency support and intervention, book, which can be related to education and knowledge, and a lock, which can be related to safety and security. And why it works, why it works, that's what I believe. It could be visually impacted because the backpack serves as a powerful, tangible representation of what the bill is trying to achieve: support, intervention, education, and safety. The emotional appeal could be the backpack tells a story of a student, and when you go through it, you look at the each item which is in the bag. So it it supports the story of the student who needs more than just security to thrive in the school environment. And also it humanizes the policy by showing that every student comes with a unique needs, which requires a holistic support. And it's also a cost-effective and a memorable um, gimmick because a simple and non-confrontational approach that leaves the lasting impression on legislators. Because even though when you advocate, you gotta be careful on the resources what you have, and these are some resources which is very common to find, and also we're respecting the legislators in the environment, and we're trying to make a relationship which better help the bill. So summary of the Senate Bill 67, the potential impact. So, like I said, it could transfer the approach of school safety by focusing on prevention, mental health support, early intervention, rather than relying solely on punitive measures, like I stated before, like suspension or going to jail, or like arrest and other measures as well. And it aligns with the core value of social work, advocating for the well-being of vulnerable students and addressing the root cause of violence. So the call to action is supporting the bill means advocating for a future where Indiana students are safe and supported and empowered to success academically and socially. I mean, if this bill passes in Indiana, we could be or we can be one of the examples where we can show other states and where this um, what this bill aims to show can be replicated in different states as long as there's resource and also it's morally driven by the data which are collected and also through the coalition the different partners because the main aim I believe is not just to match the grant um, get the training for just some staff. I think it would be nice if the grant keeps going and like as in the near future, maybe there's some modification to grant there were some funding comes through a different channel, which helps the policy so everyone else can be trained and which benefits the full the cost as well as the school environmental. And I think as social workers, we should advocate for that and also it also helps, I would say, to hire more workers or other staff who can walk or be the support the student needs. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you guys all have a great day.